alternative that I mentioned before, which is valid for consumers, but which is valid for producers as well, which in terms of energies are consumer in the same way in which final consumers like us are.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how, moving back to consumers, as you mentioned, how does this policy shift actually, how is it expected to affect the different income groups in Malaysia? And how will this give an impact on Malaysia's overall economic activity?
So I think that rather than looking at it from the different income groups, we should look at it from the usage of petrol, mainly. So if you are a person from a low-income group that, however, works from home or has a little commuting to reach the work, then the impact will be minimal. But instead, if you travel a lot, let's say this will have more impact, and the way in which the rationalization will be implemented most probably will affect more in relative terms the higher income groups, because they are the ones that are going to pay for the full cost of petrol, and they are also the ones that pay most of the taxes in the country, to be honest. So the impact will depend very much on usage. And that's why actually my idea on how we should proceed on the way of rationalization is with the issuing of purpose vouchers rather than giving cash aids. Why purpose voucher? Because if I'm a person in the need, the government can only know the average data, can know the incomes, but cannot know the actual usage and need of each household. It will be too complicated, go at that level of detail.
Yeah, definitely.
So let the market work on that details to support the policy. In which way? In the way that if I'm a person that deserves the subsidy, I receive the voucher, but let's say I don't need it because I work from home or I have less commuting. So I find myself in the hands a voucher which I can't use because I don't use the car or I don't have the car. So I may sell it to you that maybe need more subsidy than the one that you are actually receiving for whatever reason. Obviously, it doesn't make sense for me to sell it at the price which is the same that the price at the pump, because then you will go directly to the pump, but I can sell it at a discount. I have 100 ringgit of voucher, which I can sell to you at 50 ringgit. For you will be a surplus, for me will be a surplus, so everybody is happy. I know that critics of this system will talk about the creation of a black market for vouchers, but it is precisely what I want to see. Because in this way, this black market will reach that level of targetization that the government by nature can't reach. Because the government works from the top down, the market works from the bottom up. So let the market support this system from the bottom up with the creation of this market for the vouchers. That I think is a way to be more targeted. Because obviously the government will give the same subsidies to all the households that have the same income. But different households have different needs. And those needs can be traded in the market through the commercialization, the trading of vouchers.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, Carmelo. Now, what about driving in investments to Malaysia? Could a shift towards a more targeted subsidy framework actually impact investor sentiment and also Malaysia's credit ratings?
So, in itself, the measure probably will not change the investor perception in itself as a measure. Where the measure can play a role in boosting confidence and credit rating is in an indirect way, because there has been a lot of talking about this measure, this rationalization, for a number of years now, and finally doing it would show a sign of commitment to the promised policies. So the way in which confidence can be impacted is in this indirect way, so showing that the government does what it has promised to do,
All right, that's wonderful. Now, Carmelo, it's time for us to take another short break. But when we come back, we'll talk more about targeted subsidies, a reform in focus, all that coming up on Money Matters. You are back with us on Money Matters, and we're speaking to Carmelo Ferlito, the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Market Education, and we're talking about targeted subsidies. Now, Carmelo, moving on to the last segment of the show, we want to find out what other countries have implemented targeted subsidies successfully and what Malaysians can learn from this. What lessons are in it for Malaysia?
And as I mentioned earlier, probably the turning point is inserting in the system a bottom-up support mechanism driven by the market. So driving more and more toward a generalized and widespread market price in which we enter to help the needy with purpose vouchers and creating a market for vouchers. This, I think, can be something that has not been tested anywhere, so it may be a big mistake. So I don't have the pretense to have the ultimate good solution, but probably something that at least on a smaller scale is worth being tried.
Okay, so based on what you're saying, that there's not too much to learn from other countries except for what not to do, how can we use perhaps economic psychology to encourage public acceptance on targeted subsidies and also to help smoothen the transition process for Malaysia as a whole?
Well, you see, rather than economic psychology, I would say is important communication. The right way to communicate the things, and education. Trying to explain why subsidies were wrong in the very first place and why we are moving away from them and the benefit that in general for the economy this can bring. This, I think, will be the biggest challenge, together with showing a commitment, as I mentioned earlier, to give an alternative so that the people knows, okay, now we have a more expensive petrol, but maybe we don't need to use that petrol. So that will be very much the key in the success for this transition.
All right. So to enhance Malaysia's economic competitiveness in the long run, if we move away from subsidy rationalization, what other structural reforms can Malaysia apply to improve our economy?
Malaysia is a small country, okay? Small market, surrounded by giants like Indonesia, Vietnam, which are still growing, where markets are less saturated, where they have more availability of labor, where the market is bigger. So what Malaysia can offer to investors that these countries cannot yet offer is a solid institutional framework which is welcoming investment with less red tape, with less regulation and more business-friendly ecosystem. This is where Malaysia can really win the game, recognizing that is where the competitive advantage of the country is, together with pursuing an aggressive strategy of free trade. While the world is moving in a different direction, Malaysia can, right now, in the moment in which Malaysia is chairing ASEAN, send out a message that benefit for the people will come from international free trade.
Okay, so in terms of educating the public about targeted subsidies, where do we stand at the moment right now, and how can we improve the public's acceptance about targeted subsidies and the rationalization as a whole?
I think that the big missing point at this moment is knowing how the system will be implemented, the mechanism itself. So we've done a lot of talking about this. We all recognize that it's something that must be done. And I understand from the policymaker perspective that doing it is a big headache. So to find the right mechanism is difficult. But sooner or later we have to come out by communicating how we think we are going to do that. Because I think that the people are a little bit in the darkness, in the mist about how the system will work and what will be the immediate impact on their pockets. So ultimately, that's what matters for the people in the street.
Yes, yes, indeed. I like the way you put it, not in the dark, but in the mist, knowing somewhat a little bit about what's going to happen. Well, I guess with everything, time will tell, and we'll see in the future how this actually applies to Malaysia's economy. Well, Carmelo, it's been a wonderful time talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing with us and shedding some light on this topic today.
Thanks to you. It was really a big pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you again. Well, that was the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for Market Education, Carmelo Ferlito. For the past half hour, you've been with us on Money Matters, and if you missed any part of today's show, you can always catch it up on Tuntun. Until next time, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching and have a great weekend.